Xiao Yan's eyes swept over those enemies from the past one after another. His heart also let out a wave of bitter laughter at this moment. It was unexpected that these fellows would all be here. While Xiao Yan was watching this group of people, the latter had clearly also discovered his observation. Numerous eyes immediately turned over quickly. Their expressions underwent various respective changes. Humph, it is unexpected that we can still see this little brat here. Binghe Zunjia from the Ice River Valley stared at Xiao Yan. There was a densely cold glint vaguely flashing within his eyes. Back then, he could only withdraw because he was afraid of the Gu clan. Otherwise, Xiao Yan's group would have long since been successfully captured by him. Currently, all sorts of people have gathered here. If I have the chance after entering the remains, I might be able to attack. At that time, as long as I do it secretively, even the Gu clan would no longer be able to observe it. Binghe Zunjia gently turned the snow-white storage ring on his finger. There was vaguely some killing intent surfacing on his face. It really is the case of enemies frequently crossing path. He is actually able to meet this brat in this place. Hey, without the protection of the Pill Tower, the old me really wished to see how you can do anything earth-shaking. A ferocious expression flashed across the face of the chief of the profound Xian sect Zhan Tian, Nan, while he muttered quietly within his heart. Although these fellows hid very well, the vaguely present killing intent was still sensed by Xiao Yan. He knitted his brows slightly and felt a little troublesome. He was unafraid if it was just one of these fellows alone. However, if they were to join hands, things would become a little troublesome. It is unexpected that I have unknowingly created so many enemies. Xiao Yan and Little Fairy Doctor exchanged glances with each other. Their expressions were a little helpless. Originally, he did not intend to create so many enemies. However, due to various different reasons, he had ended up becoming enemies with these large factions. This was indeed something that he felt extremely helpless about. Hey, Xiao Yan, you are really here? A surprised, delicate voice was suddenly transmitted from a short distance away while Xiao Yan was feeling helpless. Xiao Yan was startled. He raised his head, only to see a red-dressed woman using a pair of beautiful large eyes to stare at him. The latter's beautiful appearance gave Xiao Yan a familiar feeling. Tang Hua Air? Xiao Yan's mind churned slightly and immediately recalled her. His brows was immediately raised. Since the young miss of the Burning Flame Valley had arrived, it was likely that the chief of the Burning Flame Valley, Tang Jin, should also have come. Xiao Yan's eyes turned as he thought in this manner within his heart. He immediately saw the red-robed Tang Hua Air, who was beside Xiao Yan. The old man, who was full of smiles, was surprisingly the chief of the Burning Flame Valley, Tang Jin. Cuckoo, young friend Xiao Yan, it has been a long time since we last met. You still appear as fine as you have always been. Tang Jin laughed in front of the eyes of many experts around the. He led the experts from the Burning Flame Valley towards Xiao Yan, cupped his hands together, and laughed. Valley Chief Tang is too polite. You have become stronger with age during these few years that we have not met. Xiao Yan did not slight Tang Jin as he hurriedly replied with a smile. The Burning Flame Valley could be considered one of the higher-ranked large faction within the Central Plains. Tang Jin was also a renowned expert. His action would naturally attract the notice of quite a number of people. Hence, Fengqing Air, Binghe Zunjia, and the rest involuntarily knitted their brows when they saw this scene. None of them had expected that Xiao Yan would possess such a relationship. Within a short 2 years, you have not only become the champion of the Pill Gathering but has even advanced into the Dozun class. This swift speed caused even the old me to feel ashamed. Tang Jin acted as though he did not notice those gazes. His eyes swept over Xiao Yan and sighed. What he had said were some heartfelt words. When he had met Xiao Yan for the first time back then, the latter had only just advanced into the Dozon class. However, the next time they had met, Xiao Yan had already successfully advanced to a Dozun. This kind of training speed was indeed something that no one could match. Xiao Yan did not reply to Tang Jin's sigh. He merely smiled, changed the topic and laughed. Has Valley Chief Tang also come because of the ancient remains this time around? Ancient remains are quite rare, and the things left behind by an elite Dosheng are even rarer. Since the remains has appeared, I will naturally need to come and have an eye-opener. Tang Jin laughed. His gaze randomly swept around him. With his sharp old eyes, he was naturally able to tell that quite a number of big factions present had some enmity towards Xiao Yan. Young friend Xiao Yan, your current situation does not seem to be quite good? My luck is bad. Xiao Yan waved his hand and spoke in a casual manner. Cuckoo, if there is anything that you need help with after entering the remains, you can just ask me. Back then, you have helped the old me refine a fire bodhisattva pill. The old me still owes you a favor. Tangjin softly replied. If it really comes until that stage, Xiao Yan will definitely come and seek your help. Xiao Yan smiled slightly and gently nodded. The reason Tangjin was willing to help him offend these strong large factions was partly because of the favor from the pill refinement back then, but a larger part was likely because of Xiao Yan's other identity. An 8-star alchemist guru and the pill gathering champion. An alchemist guru was an existence that many large faction would fight to draw over no matter where he was. A pill refinement favor might not be sufficient for Tangjin to step forward at this moment. However, if one added this alchemist guru status, it would be sufficient. The Xiao Yan from back then might not be truly viewed by Tangjin like an expert of the older generation. However, the current Xiao Yan already possessed the qualification to be viewed seriously by Tangjin. Of course, it was difficult to tell whether things would develop to that stage. Although many powerful people were currently looking at Xiao Yan in a malicious manner, it would be difficult to say just who would win if they were to really engage in an all-out fight. Moreover, all of these fellows wanted to obtain the Tian Class Do skill from the remains. Hence, it was unlikely for them to engage in a bloody battle with Xiao Yan's group before they obtained the Tian Class Do skill. After all, they still needed to preserve some strength to snatch the Tian Class Do skill. Additionally, if the Tian Class Do skill eventually fell into their hands, they would have even less time to come and find trouble with Xiao Yan's group. This was because there would be an even larger number of people finding trouble with them. Therefore, despite this situation appearing quite dangerous, it did not reach the point where Xiao Yan needed to beg for help. Xiao Yan smiled as these thoughts flashed across his heart. He raised his head and swept his eyes once around him. Currently, the large hall had been occupied by a black mass of human sea. Moreover, based on the momentum, there seemed to be an endless human flow gathering here. Even though this was the case, no one dared to easily step into a 100-meter radius of the large hall. Bang! This kind of stalemate continued for around 10 minutes before the land suddenly trembled swiftly. The large hall, which had been void of any activity, suddenly created a loud rumbling sound. Immediately, everyone saw a bright red stone door that was weighed in tons suddenly being slowly opened. A dark black tunnel was revealed behind it. The entrance has been opened. The eyes of quite a number of people immediately reddened upon seeing this scene. Some people could not control themselves. They immediately moved their bodies and appeared outside of the tunnel within a couple of flashes. Immediately, they charged in amidst a loud laughter. The sea of people immediately turned into an uproar when they saw someone leading the way. Numerous figures flashed swiftly as they charged into the tunnel. Looking at that manner, it seemed that they were afraid that the treasures inside would be snatched by others before them. Compared to the recklessness of these people, Xiao Yan's group did not make any move. If it was so easy to barge into the remains left behind by an elite Do Sheng, it would indeed be far too much like child's play. Puff! The truth was indeed as Xiao Yan had expected. Soon after quite a number of people had charged into the tunnel, the dark black tunnel suddenly turned bright red. The hard ground was slowly split apart. After which, everyone saw bright red boiling hot lava spluttering out from within. At the same time, the walls of that spacious tunnel also suddenly spat out numerous demonic blue fire pillars. Anyone who touched these blue fire pills would be turned into a pile of ashes before they could even unleash a miserable screech. This sudden, unexpected change had basically caused the people inside the tunnel to completely disappear in an instant. Those people who were about to charge and hurriedly halted their bodies in shock. However, they were still directly knocked into it by the people pouncing from behind. Hence, a sharp, miserable screech resounded immediately. The exterior of the large hall was once again chaotic. The chaos continued for a moment before things finally calmed down. They faced each other, and the greed within his eyes finally become a lot fainter under the threat of death. Humph, a mere fire path actually wished to stop us? While everyone calmed down, those large factions finally began to act. This fire path might be dangerous, but it did not possess any lethal threat to them. Soon after these words sounded, one could see many majestic Doqi surging out. Immediately, the Doqi lingered around their bodies as they transformed into numerous light figures that rushed into the fire path with a sizzling sound. This time around, those fire pillars did not immediately incinerate their bodies when they shot onto them. Instead, it ended up in a stalemate with the majestic Doqi. With the Doqi defense, these experts also hurriedly rushed towards the end of the tunnel. Of course, there was no lacking of some unlucky people who were swallowed by the flame due to their Doqi being unable to keep up with the expenditure. Cuckoo, young friend Xiao Yan, you are in possession of a heavenly flame. It is likely that this fire path will not be able to stop your group. Let's move. Tang Jin laughed after seeing everyone beginning to charge into the large hall. He waved his sleeve, and the bright 9-dragon lightning flame surged out before wrapping around everyone from the burning flame valley. Xiao Yan also smiled upon seeing this. He nodded slightly, and the purple-brown-colored 3,000 lotus heart flame swept out from within his body. It swept around and encompassed little fairy doctor's group within it. Tang Jin by the side had a sudden change in expression when the 3,000 lotus heart flame appeared. The 9-dragon lightning flame also trembled intensely. 9 fire dragons were vaguely visible on the surface of the flame. They were emitting a soft dragon roar, which contained some fear within it. This little fellow's heavenly flame, why is it completely different from the past? Tang Jun's heart was incomparably shaken as he looked at the purple-brown flame on Xiao Yan's body. This was the first time he had seen a heavenly flame that could cause the 9-dragon lightning flame to reveal such an emotion. Cuckoo, Valley Chief Tang, Xiao Yan shall enter first. Xiao Yan smiled. He ignored Tang Jin's shocked expression as he waved his sleeves. His flame dragged everyone and rushed out and charged into the incomparably hot fire path. This fellow, he is really frightening. Sizzle. The purple-brown flame was wrapped around little fairy doctor's group. It was just like a fire dragon that arrogantly rushed out from amongst the countless number of people. It brought about some chaos as he directly rushed into the unusually hot fire path. After charging into the fire path, the surrounding temperature had clearly been raised by dozens of times. The surrounding hard, bright red stones were burned until they were completely red. The hot lava below continued to splutter out like a spring. Those hot rock fragments contained in the lava also possessed quite a great lethal force. If he was careless, it might penetrate through the Doqi and cause one to end up being completely pierced. However, this fire path, which might be quite troublesome to the others, did not possess the slightest difficulty to Xiao Yan. With the 3,000 lotus heart flame protecting the body, regardless of whether it was the lava or the surrounding demonic blue fire pillars that were shot out, they were unable to cause any harm towards Xiao Yan. The use of the heavenly flame was completely revealed at this moment. At this moment, there were quite a number of experts charging forward with all their strength. Majestic Doqi covered their bodies until there was not the slightest gap formed. Although they were able to endure it and charge in, they were clearly not as relaxed as Xiao Yan's group. These blue flame possessed a mysterious effect of melting Doqi. When the two were engaged in a stalemate, the rate at which one exhausts Doqi would far exceed the expectations of many. Based on this rate of consumption, even an elite Dozong would not be able to endure for long. While these people endured the flame and lava as they fiercely charging forward, they also saw Xiao Yan's group, which appeared to be progressing in a relaxed manner. All of their eyes were a little stunned. Xiao Yan ignored these gazes. A thought passed through his heart, and the purple-brown flame withered. It left everyone behind as it swiftly rushed into the deep parts of the fire path. With the help of the heavenly flame, Xiao Yan's group advancement rate was quite rapid. Within a short few minutes, they had directly passed some of the experts who had entered earlier than them. Even though this was the case, they were still unable to see the end of the fire path. It is indeed worthy of being the remains left behind by an elite Dosheng. This fire path is actually so long. It looks like some people are going to be unlucky. Little fairy doctor involuntarily laughed softly when she saw this scene. Xiao Yan also smiled and nodded. The surrounding blue flame was extremely mysterious. They were able to melt Doqi. Those who wished to rely on the strength of one's Doqi to forcefully barge in would indeed be unlucky. Unless it was some extremely powerful experts. Otherwise, those who could rely on Doqi to pass through such a long fire path would be an extreme minority. Based on Xiao Yan's expectations, it was likely that just this entry fire path would have eliminated many people. Hey, isn't that the Ice River Valleys group in front? Tianhua Zunjia swept his eyes over the front of the tunnel and suddenly said. Xiao Yan raised his brows and took a glance upon hearing this. Indeed, he saw a large cluster of white-colored fog permeating the area a short distance in front. One could vaguely see some human figures within the fog. Xiao Yan was extremely familiar with those cold air. It was the unique icy cold Doqi of the Ice River Valley. Humph! While Xiao Yan's group eyes were being shot over, Bing He Zunjia, who was within the icy cold fog, also appeared to have sensed Xiao Yan's group behind. Immediately, he let out a cold snort. He waved his large sleeve, and the cold air that wrapped around the experts from the Ice River Valley transformed into a cold glow. Its speed swiftly increased and disappeared from the sight of Xiao Yan's group. These terrible characters, are they running so quickly because they are afraid that we will attack them? Xiong Zhan parted his mouth and spoke with disdain when he saw this. Xiao Yan smiled. With their current lineup, there would not be afraid of an Ice River Valley. If they were to really fight, it was likely that the one who needed to be worried was Bing He Zunjia. Let's go. I have a feeling that something is not quite right with this fire path. Let's leave first before talking. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the surrounding blue flame. His brows involuntarily frowned slightly. Although this flame was not a heavenly flame, it was also extremely strange. Ordinary Doqi would appear like a catalyst in front of this kind of flame. Not only would it be unable to extinguish the flame, but would end up causing the flame to become increasingly fierce. Xiao Yan waved his sleeves after uttering those words. Their speed rose suddenly as they transformed into a fire glow that shot explosively towards the end of the fire path. Xiao Yan's group charged wildly for some distance while riding the fire glow. Along the way, they were able to meet some people who had terrible expressions alone. The thing that surprised them was that the people from the Ice River Valley had actually completely disappeared. The situation is not quite right. It is impossible for the speed of those people from the Ice River Valley to exceed ours. Little fairy doctor's brows were knitted tightly before she finally uttered in a deep voice a moment later. Xiao Yan reduced his speed a little. His eyes flickered slightly, after which he raised his head and looked into the deep parts of the fire path. That place was still completely bright red in color. There was not the slightest trace of its end. This fire path is really too damn long. Is the end really in front of us? Xiong Zhan also cursed somewhat impatiently. Xiao Yan was suddenly startled when he heard these words. He immediately lowered his body. Those eyes of his flickered, appearing as though he had understood something. He spoke in a deep voice. This fire path is a trap. The path in front of us is not the true route into the remains. If we continue to travel through the fire path, the Doqi within our bodies will be exhausted sooner or later. If this fire path is not the true entrance, where is the true entrance then? Little fairy doctor raised her eyebrows. Her eyes also looked towards the bright red walls beside her when she spoke. Those walls were built from an extremely hard bright red magma rock. Even Xiao Yan's group was unable to identify just what this kind of rock was. However, it was definitely not an ordinary thing if it could be selected by an elite Dosheng to build this remains. It was obvious that one should not attempt to break it with brute force. Xiao Yan revealed an expression of deep thought. His eyes suddenly shifted downwards a moment later. Finally, he paused it on the bright red viscous magma below and slowly said, "The reason why the members of the Ice River Valley had disappeared is likely because Bing He Zunjia had discovered the true entrance. However, the left, right, and top of this tunnel are rock walls? You mean, the path is not in front but below?" Little fairy doctor asked in surprise. The owner of this remains is indeed cunning. Which ordinary person would leap into the lava for no reason? Tianhua Zunjia's face was similarly a stunned one. He, No wonder the members of the Ice River Valley was in a hurry to shake us off. They are actually unwilling for us to find the true entrance. Xiao Yan laughed. He gave a reminder to everyone before waving his sleeve. Purple-brown flame wrapped around everyone. With a splash sound, they directly entered the hot, bright red lava. Xiao Yan's group swiftly sunk after entering the lava. Although the lava was hot, it posed no obstruction to everyone who had the protection of a heavenly flame. Hence, after this sinking continued for around a minute, everyone could hear a slight muffled sound. The area under their feet became empty and they fell for a certain distance. Finally, their feet once again stood on the icy cold ground. Everyone hurriedly raised their heads to take a look after their feet landed. A shocked expression immediately covered their faces. The bright red lava appeared like numerous huge pythons above their heads. They adopted a ring shape as they hung above in a distorted manner. One could vaguely see some human figures occasionally rushing past the fire path. Clearly, this lava was the fire path that Xiao Yan's group had traveled through earlier. If one was to really follow such a long fire path, there was no telling just how long it would take to travel to the end. TSK, it is indeed deserving of being an ancient remains. To think that it has actually fooled everyone. If these people reached the end of the fire path after much difficulty only to discover a rock wall at the end, would they end up being so furious that they would die on the spot? Xiao Yan looked at the bending fire path and involuntarily spoke in a somewhat gloating manner. Little Fairy Doctor's group also involuntarily laughed upon hearing this. It seems that those who has entered in the past has never found the true entrance. However, perhaps it is because of the seal, but these traps were also not completely activated. Therefore, it had allowed some lucky fellows to enter, Little Fairy Doctor reasoned. Xiao Yan nodded. His eyes swept around. The current location of theirs was an extremely spacious large stone path. The path extended for a great distance. It was possible to vaguely see a square there. There seemed to be some human figures on the square. Let's go. This place should likely be able to truly enter the remains. However, our target is the soul baby fruit. We will let them go and snatch for the Tian Class Do skill first. We will discuss about everything else once we have obtained the soul baby fruit. Xiao Yan mused for a moment before speaking in a solemn manner. Everyone nodded upon hearing this. Once we enter the hall, the matter of finding the soul baby fruit will be left to Ziyin. Ziyin, you have a special perception when it comes to finding this kind of natural treasure. It will be much faster for you to search for it, rather than all of us randomly doing so. Xiao Yan looked towards Ziyin and instructed. He, this is a small matter. Leave it to me. Ziyin nodded. She was extremely happy to take the initiative when it came to searching for natural treasures. Xiao Yan also smiled when he saw this. His toes pressed on the ground, and his body transformed into a blurry figure that rushed towards the square in the distance. Little Fairy Doctor and the rest swiftly followed from behind. The path was not considered long. With the speed of Xiao Yan's group, they had appeared on the square after a couple of minutes. At the same time, they discovered that there were already quite a number of people who had arrived on the square beforehand. Most of these people were those who were the fastest to charge in. Amongst them include the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, Ice River Valley, etc. The sudden appearance of Xiao Yan's group also attracted the attention of everyone on the square. Bing He Zunjia frowned slightly. Clearly, he did not expect that Xiao Yan's group would discover the mystery of the fire path so quickly. Xiao Yan ignored these gazes. His eyes paused at the edge of the square when he stepped into the place. There was an extremely heavy stone door at that spot. 10 straight spear-like bodies stood at that spot without any movement. The skin of these bodies were bright silver in color. Their eyes were hollow, and they were expressionless. It was as though they were some old corpse. Earth Demon Puppet? The corner of Xiao Yan's eyes twitched involuntarily when he saw the existence of these corpse-like beings. His heart was extremely shocked as he muttered. Xiao Yan was likely the person who was most familiar with this kind of silver puppet amongst those present. This was because he had also refined one of his own. Moreover, this current Earth Demon Puppet had already evolved until the Sky Demon Puppet stage. Those puppet outside of the stone door were completely bright silver. Clearly, they were still at the Earth Demon Puppet level. Based on Xiao Yan's estimation, These 10 Earth Demon puppets should have the strength equivalent to the peak of the Do Zone class. They could already be considered quite strong. However, it would be a little lacking if one wished to stop the many experts from the Central Plains with just them alone. Looks like the true remains is behind this stone door. Little Fairy Doctor looked at this heavy stone door and softly said, "Yes. However, the stone door is tightly shut. There's also a faint spatial fluctuation on it. Clearly, one cannot use brute force to open it. In that case, the method to open it would likely lie in these 10 puppets." Xiao Yan nodded slightly. His eyes swept once around and discovered that most people's eyes were pausing on the puppets. Clearly, all of them understood this in their hearts. Currently, there is no need for us to attack. There will naturally be people who will take care of this kind of thing. Tan Huazunja laughed. Xiao Yan involuntarily smiled and nodded upon hearing this old cunning laughter of Tian Huazunja. They stood randomly on a remote part of the square and watched the action of everyone present. While Xiao Yan's group remained quiet, the square experienced some private conversations and hesitation before a gray-clothed old man slowly stepped out. From his vast and mighty aura, he was obviously an elite Do Zun. However, a glance from Xiao Yan's group allowed them to recognize that this old man was merely just a one-star Do Zun. The sect that this gray-clothed old man belonged to was one that Xiao Yan had never seen before. However, he did not think too much about it. The Central Plains was extremely vast. There was an unknown number of hidden experts within it. The strength that some of the low-profile factions had was not much weaker than those renowned factions. The old man slowly walked out in front of the many gazes. Vast and mighty Do Chi lingered around him as he directly walked into the area surrounded by the 10 Earth Demon puppet. That manner appeared as though he had an exceptionally great courage. Crack! When that old man was around 100 feet into the stone door, those 10 statue-like unmoving figures emitted a low and deep bone-cracking sound. Immediately, 10 icy-cold empty eyes directly stared at the gray-clothed old man. Their hands were clenched and silver light surged from them. 10 bright silver long spear appeared in their hands. Sizzle! Bright silver light flashed. The 10 figures were just like lightning as they carried a sharp wind and attacked the gray-clothed old man. "Ha! It is merely a couple of broken puppets. Yet, you are intending on blocking the old me." That gray-clothed old man laughed out loud upon seeing this. He charged into the group of puppet without any weapon in his hands. Majestic Do Chi surged. Each time he swung his fist, he would force a puppet backwards. Xiao Yan involuntarily shook his head as he looked at the gray-clothed old man, who was not at a disadvantage despite fighting against 10 alone. The gap between the Do Zone and Do Zun class was too great. Although these 10 puppets had successfully blocked the gray-clothed old man, it was obvious from this situation that they would not be able to endure for long. Clang! Silver light danced within the battleground. The gray-clothed old man directly forced 3 puppets back. His hand, which contained a deep yellow color, left a half-a-finger deep palm imprint on the puppet's body. Roar! With their continuous defeat, the 10 Earth Demon puppet suddenly paused their footsteps. Silver glow flashed in their eyes, and a low and deep roar was actually emitted from their throats. Immediately, their footsteps moved in an orderly manner and immediately formed a strange formation. Silver glow flickered. Waves after waves of silver snake-like energy surged out from within their bodies. After which, they were directly connected to each other, forming a circular ring in the process. Roar! The moment the circular ring was formed, the leading Earth Demon puppet's throat once again emitted a roar. Immediately, the silver glow weakened in front of Xiao Yan's stunned eyes. A little golden light gradually appeared. A moment later, the golden light completely replaced the silver glow. It has actually evolved? Xiao Yan's eyes involuntarily shrunk a little upon seeing this scene. He clearly understood just how difficult it was for the Earth Demon puppet to evolve into the Sky Demon puppet. Back then, the Earth Demon puppet had absorbed a lot of pill lightning in order to evolve at the last moment. Yet, this Earth Demon puppet had actually completed this within a short instant. It is the effect of the formation. No wonder it is something left by an elite Dosheng. The strange formation of Tin Earth Demon Puppet together is sufficient to contend against a 2-star Dozun. This old fellow is going to be unlucky. Xiao Yan swiftly calmed down and softly muttered to himself after the shock in his heart continued for a moment. Swoosh! That gold-yellow sky demon puppet in the battleground stomped on the ground. Crack lines spread while its body emitted a swoosh sound and appeared in front of the old man, who had experienced a drastic change in expression. His fist, which contained a golden light, was violently swung out. Bang! Faced with the extremely powerful fist, that old man hurriedly used all of his strength to meet it. At this moment, however, his natural and unrestrained manner was no longer present. The heaven demon puppet, after evolving, had a strength that was far from what he could imagine. Immediately, a deep sound appeared. A muffled snort was emitted from his throat, and a trace of blood surfaced from the corner of his mouth. He staggered backward at the same time. After the old man withdrew by a distance of 100 feet, the sky demon puppet once again withdrew its fist. Its body flashed and appeared outside of the stone door. The golden light disappeared, and it once again turned into an earth demon puppet, which stood guard at that spot. This kind of unexpected occurrence had also caused the faces of quite a number of people to change. They might not be afraid of Tin Earth Demon Puppet at the peak of the Dozone class. However, this Sky Demon Puppet, with a strength of a 2-star Dozun, caused them to fear it greatly. This thing did not possess any sense of pain. It was no different from a killing machine. There were indeed experts present who could finish it off. However, even if one defeated it, one would end up being greatly exhausted. Who would be willing to experience such an exhaustion before even seeing the remains? Those people present did not have such magnanimity. For a moment, the square descended into an embarrassing atmosphere. Everyone wanted to enter, but no one was willing to engage in a life and death battle with these puppets. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. His eyes directly looked towards the 10 puppets. An expression of desire flashed across his eyes. If these puppets really only possessed the strength of the peak of the Dozone class, he might really not be interested in them. However, if they could reach a 2-star Dozun level Sky Demon puppet, it was a different matter altogether. Moreover, Xiao Yan was also extremely interested in the mysterious formation of the Earth Demon puppet. If he added his Sky Demon puppet into it, it was likely that the strength of the Sky Demon puppet would rise greatly within a short period of time. His Sky Demon puppet was currently able to fight against a 3-star Dozun. If he was to add these 10 Earth Demon puppets and the formation to aid it, it was likely that it could even fight against a 5-star Dozun. This allure was sufficient to get Xiao Yan to act personally. "Help me keep an eye on the others." A silver glow flickered in Xiao Yan's eyes as he softly spoke to Little Fairy Doctor. His toes immediately pressed on the ground, and his body rushed over everyone's head like a large bird and steadily landed 100 feet from the stone door. "Since no one is going to attack, allow me to be the first to do so." Everyone were startled as they looked at Xiao Yan, who had suddenly stepped forward. Some of those, who had an enmity with Xiao Yan, frowned slightly. Given their understanding of the latter, this fellow was too shrewd. How would it be possible for him to take the initiative to deal with these troublesome puppets? This little fellow has taken the initiative to show himself. He definitely has some motive. Feng Qing'er frowned slightly and softly said. The white-haired man by the side glanced at Xiao Yan's back and laughed. He actually slowly walked out and said, "With your 1-star Dozun strength, you cannot even be compared to the first elder of the Ground Xian sect earlier. I think you should forget about it. Coincidentally, I am quite interested in these puppets. If I bring them back to act as door guards, it would appear quite domineering." This person's eyes were extremely sharp. He appeared to have seen through Xiao Yan's intention towards these puppets with a glance. Xiao Yan knitted his brows slightly in the face of this white-haired man, who had suddenly interfered. He immediately shook his head and said, "This is not a matter you can be worried about." After uttering those words, Xiao Yan's foot suddenly pressed on the ground. His body directly charged into 100 feet radius of the stone door. Seeing this, the white-haired man also smiled. His body flashed and he also charged in. He waved his sleeves and a sharp wind was swung towards Xiao Yan's back in front of him. Xiao Yan's back appeared to have some eyes growing on them in the face of this wind that was headed towards him from behind. His body was twisted, and he easily dodged it. A thought passed through his heart, and the vast and mighty spiritual strength lingering between his eyebrows also surged out in all directions. After which, it transformed into thousands of parts that rushed towards those puppets that were emitting a silver glow. Xiao Yan had once created the Earth Demon puppet and was clearly aware of the weakness of such puppets. If it was a head-on collision, one could only end the battle after tearing them into pieces. However, Xiao Yan did not wish to shatter them. What he wanted was control, a control that was similar to that which he had over his Sky Demon puppet. The spiritual imprint of the Earth Demon puppet's creator was present within its body. As long as this spiritual imprint was removed and a spiritual imprint of his own was to replace it, he would be able to easily control the puppets. However, this kind of spiritual imprint was hidden in a very deep spot. If it was not because Xiao Yan had personally created one, it would be impossible for him to be aware of it. Humph! This brat is really intending to control the puppets. The white-haired man had also sensed it when Xiao Yan's spiritual strength spread. He was unaware of the method to control the puppet. Hence, he was unable to snatch from Xiao Yan. However, he was also not an ordinary person. Seeing that he was unable to stop Xiao Yan, he flashed his body and appeared in front of an Earth Demon puppet. A fist was violently swung, and it landed heavily onto its body. Since he was unable to obtain it, he would destroy it. Bang! After the frightening fist landed, the Earth Demon puppet's body immediately cracked and formed numerous crack lines. Seeing this, a smile was revealed on the white-haired man's face when it stiffened. This was because he discovered that those crack lines had disappeared rapidly when the silver glow once again surged out from within the body of the puppet. I don't believe that I cannot break this puppet. A fierce glint flashed across the white-haired man's eyes. His tongue let out a sharp cry. Frightening wind swiftly gathered. A golden light suddenly rushed over just when this punch of his was about to be unleashed. A sharp, ear-piercing sound of wind being split caused the former's expression to change a little. He hurriedly pulled back. The white-haired man swept his gaze around while he pulled back, only to discover that the golden light was a dark golden-colored puppet. The feeling that this puppet gave him appeared to be even more dangerous than the golden light puppet from earlier. This brat also possessed such a puppet. No wonder he would attack. The white-haired man suddenly came to an understanding when he saw the dark golden-colored Sky Demon puppet. The white-haired man hurriedly raised his head while this thought flashed across his heart, only to coincidentally see Xiao Yan slowly opening his eyes. The latter glanced at him coldly before beckoning with his hand. Those 10 puppets emitted a swoosh sound before being kept into the latter's storage ring.